Welcome to Sunday Springboard with Melanie and Carolyn Coaching, where we help women become confident and thrive after toxic relationships. I may have told you this story before, but it's meaningful for me and it fits today's lesson, which is about hit the road, Jack. Don't you come back no more, no more, no. We won't go into that. So there's a story. This woman is going up this mountain and she's at the top. It's freezing, freezing cold, and she's heading back down the mountain. And this snake comes up to her and says, "Oh, ma'am, would you please help me get down the mountain? I'm freezing. I'm going to die. Would you just put me inside your coat and let me be warm and get me down to the bottom of the mountain?" She's like, "No, you're a snake. You'll bite me." He goes, no, please, I won't. I promise I won't. If you leave me up here, I'm going to die. And I promise to give you my thanks for giving me down the mountain. I won't bite you. And she's like, "Oh, I don't know. And he's like, come on. And she lets him talk her into it, and she puts him in her coat. She takes him down to the bottom of the mountain. She gets down to the bottom of the mountain, and the snake bites her. And she says, "What? Why you said you wouldn't bite me? Why did you bite me?" And he goes, "Lady, I'm a snake, and snakes bite." Ah! It's bad, but it's actually kind of helpful when you come to realize this. Now, hang on, I'm going to share you my screen. If I can find, I have been out of things so much that I don't even know how to work my machine anymore. Just a minute. Okay, I think you can see it now. So here's our theme of today. No matter how many times a snake sheds his skin, he will always be a snake. And what we're talking about today, the question that I asked, if you got the email today, is what if you have a snake in your life? Do you? Do you have someone in your life who is constantly, maybe not always, maybe not every day, but on a regular basis, treating you badly, being toxic, now I'm saying making you feel badly, but that's not true. We allow people to make us feel that way. However, when they're doing it constantly, it takes a lot of effort to not allow it to happen. And sometimes the way we have to react is to get away from that. And this is our idea today. How do we know when we need to get away from someone, when we need to tell someone to hit the road? How do we know how many times to forgive? Because especially if you're a Christian, aren't we taught to forgive? Doesn't Jesus tell us to forgive 70 times 7? That is true. He does. And that is a true statement. But one of the things that may help us today as we're looking at our idea of how do I know when to keep forgiving someone, when to keep giving them more chances, and when it's time to move on. Now, we're talking about all kinds of people here. You could be talking about a husband, a wife. You could be talking about a boss, a friend, a child. Some of these relationships are more difficult to even think about moving on from, but this can still relate to you in whatever your circumstances. So how do we know when to tell them hit the road? First of all, the question about forgiveness. Aren't I supposed to forgive? That is true, we are. But there are 2 types of forgiveness according to Rick Hansen in his book, Resilient. So the first type of forgiveness is what we call a classic forgiveness, a full pardon. Now this would be given to someone who is repentant. They're very sorry. They didn't necessarily get caught. Maybe they got caught and then they realize that they're sorry. But this person realizes they've hurt you deeply. They realize that they have betrayed your trust. They're going to have to earn your trust back. And they're taking steps to try to do this. You look at them, you feel like they are truly repentant. Like they are really trying to change. Now, they may be not doing it perfectly, but you feel like they're making an effort, a true effort. Now, when this happens, you can give them a full pardon. Maybe you don't pursue justice. You don't pursue anything. You just give them the second chance. Now, we're going to talk about this a little bit more. If this is someone's first time, then perhaps you can just forgive and give them another chance. If this has gone on several times, they are going to need to earn your forgiveness back. And we will look at that at the end when we talk about some tips to help you decide when to keep on and when to move on. Now, the second type of forgiveness, I think, is very helpful to understand. He calls this disentangled forgiveness. So what this means is I'm disentangling myself from the person. The reason Jesus tells us to forgive, for one reason, is it's helpful to us. When we don't forgive people, when we stay in the bitterness, if you've heard me say this before, resentment is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. The reason that we want to forgive someone is not for them, and it's not necessarily for the relationship. It could be if we're working on a classic one, but on this disentangled one, this does not mean we are going to continue with the relationship. This just means I'm going to detach myself from them. I'm going to cut the strings. I'm not going to obsess on what they have done to me. I may be pursuing justice. Maybe there are criminal actions and I'm maybe taking them to court or to law, or maybe I am actually filing for divorce and leaving. There may be legal things going on here, but the forgiveness that I'm doing is just letting go of my anger at them. I'm just detaching away from them in whatever way that takes. Now, or whatever way that looks. This may be the kind of forgiveness that you need to do if the person in your life is very toxic. You will have to decide which one of these kind of forgivenesses you can offer. Now, this is a book, I really love this book. If you are dealing with someone who is perhaps a narcissist, sociopath, something like that, this book, Why Does He Do That? Inside the Minds of Angry and Controlling Men. I'm sure that there are some women like this, but this book helped me so much. So to give you a little bit of my story, when I did not realize it actually when I left my first husband, but he was a narcissist. At the time, I just realized, to me, he was a liar, and it seemed like he was a control freak. But he would do good things sometimes. And so after the divorce, sometimes I would think, oh man, was I overreacting? Was the situation not as bad as I thought it was? Because I would remember good things he had done. And I read this book and I thought, oh my word, this man lived in my closet. Because what he talked about, well, everything in it he described of this man fit my ex-husband. But the thing that was so helpful to me was that he compared this person. He did not call this a narcissist. Back then, I don't think it was that much of a term. This was like 20 years ago. But basically, that's what he's talking about here. So this narcissistic man, he compared this to an alcoholic. So he said, now, an alcoholic, when they're drinking, they're doing their thing. But when they quit drinking, when they stop drinking, they are off the wagon. They are doing something different than their bad behavior. It is different. Whereas a narcissist, when they're treating you with good behavior, it's not necessarily off the wagon. It could be part of the plan, part of the manipulation. He said all people like to think they're good, and so all people are going to do good things sometimes. And they know that if they're always mean to you, that you're going to leave them. So they are going to do some good things sometimes. But that does not mean that that is who they truly are. This helped me so much because I realized the good times didn't change anything. He was still the kind of person that he was, even when he was being good. So when the snake story meant so much to me because after the divorce, during and after, he would do things, and they would always come out of left field, and I would never be able to anticipate it. I wouldn't be able to plan for it. It would just be a boom, and I would just be so upset. I can't believe he's doing that. Why is he doing this? And then when I heard that story about the snake, I realized, yeah, a snake's always going to be a snake. So if you have someone in your life who just keeps hitting you out of left field and they just keep doing these things, and every time it happens, you're shocked and you're astonished and you're surprised and you're thinking, why are they doing that to me? Maybe they're a snake. A snake's And if you can get to a point where you're not shocked and astonished anymore, and you just accept it, I don't mean that you're okay with it, but you accept and realize this is what it is, and you're not just spinning your wheels with the why is he doing that? Why would they do it to me? I'm loving them. I'm trying to be good. Why would they do this? If you stop that spinning, it puts you in a place of power to where you can make some decisions, where you can think more clearly. And in order to think clearly, you're definitely going to have to get your brain clear. You know, I've talked about this so many times. When we're triggered, when our brain senses that we're in danger, it pours all those hormones. We're activated, we're reactivated, and we're not thinking clearly. So before you can even make these kind of decisions, you have to be able to get yourself regulated, do some breathing exercises, the wet noodle. If you need some help, obviously I would love to help you. I'll mention that again in a minute. So this is a great book. If you are having any thoughts and you're in any kind of a situation like I'm describing today, this might be a helpful book for you. You can get from Amazon. Now, I want to help you decide whether it's time to forgive this person, give them another chance, or whether it's time to move on. Now, I'm not going to help you decide. I'm going to give you some tips to help you decide. So, first of all, make some lists. Start taking stock of what is happening. You can make it at first when you're first trying to decide what is even the truth. This is the thing, you're trying to figure out what is the truth. So make lists of the pros and the cons. What good things are they doing? What bad things are they doing? Don't just, I mean, you can write down things they say, but look at their actions, not just their words. Do their actions fit their words? So make this list, because so many people, I've heard so many women decide to leave their narcissist husband, and then they just keep second guessing themselves. Well, just like I did. Maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe I'm the one who's a narcissist. Make these lists. And then if you get to a point where you're questioning yourself, you can go back and look at them. Another list that's good to make is the consequences. What are the consequences of leaving, and what are the consequences of staying? There are consequences to both. And so when you make these lists, you can decide which consequences am I more willing to live with, which consequences am I more able to feel happy and satisfied, and include your kids in here. What are the pros and cons for your kids, the consequences for your kids? If you go, if you stay, if you make them leave, whichever way. So make the lists. And don't ignore the red flags. Now, if you're like me, if you're in a marriage situation, you may have been ignoring red flags all along. I was. The first time, my first husband, I don't know that I necessarily realized they were red flags because I was very naive. So my second husband was an alcoholic. I was definitely ignoring the red flags. When you are not content and satisfied in your own self, and you feel like you need someone so badly to love you and to give you that self-worth, you're likely to ignore the red flags. And this is where, if you're not in a situation right now, like if you're talking about your boyfriend, or if you're just in between, do some work on yourself. Do some work to where you can be happy and content in yourself, to where you don't need this other person. You may feel like a relationship with them would benefit you, would add some icing to the cake, but you're okay without it. And that way you're not desperate, and you're not going to ignore those red flags. It's hard to see them if you're going along and things seem so great and you're so wonderful and you're infatuated at first. It's really easy to think those red flags are not real. But here's the thing: when you're dating, you're seeing them the best they're going to be. When you're dating, you always show your best self. So what you're seeing in dating is what you have to realize. You have to be okay with that forever. Because we, as women, we always think the men are going to change and get better. And apparently the men think we're not going to change. That's a stereotype there. But the idea is good that we think that they're going to change. We think we can change them, and we can't. So you have to be satisfied with what you're seeing while you're dating. Don't ignore the red flags. Address them at the beginning. Maybe there are some things, maybe they're not this narcissist person, but there's some issues. Address them at the beginning, and don't be afraid that if you address them and they leave, that it's a bad thing. If you address them and they leave, that's a very good thing. It happened before you got more entrenched and your heart got more broken and you got maybe into the marriage. And the deeper that you go, the harder it is to get out once you decide that you should. So don't worry that addressing things are going to make it end, because if it ends, then that's a good thing for you. And learn about all this. Learn about trauma bond. Learn about gaslighting. And if you think this person that you're with is a narcissist, learn about that. It's pretty eye-opening and enlightening, because what happens if you are in a relationship with a narcissist and you try to talk about any little issues, they're going to turn it around on you. They're going to make you feel like you're the one going crazy. You're the one overreacting. And this is called gaslighting. This comes from the movie Gaslight. And in this movie, the man drives the woman insane. And so with gaslighting, a narcissist is going to just try to convince you you're crazy. And a lot of times we let them do that. We believe them. We think, I just feel crazy. Maybe I am crazy. And you're not crazy. This person is just trying to make you feel that way, and you're not realizing it, and you're falling into the trap. Once you start noticing it and realizing it, you can start reacting in a different way. This will do one of two things. Either they will shape up, or they will realize, hey, this is not working out. Well, actually, they may start doing it worse, change their manipulation, get more intimidating. So things may get worse before they're better, but something will change, and things will move along one way or the other as you learn about all this stuff and feel more strong and confident in yourself to make these decisions. Talk to someone. Now, you can't necessarily talk to your best friend or your family, because if you've got someone in your life that's mistreating you, they're going to just say, leave that sucker. Get away from there. All they care about is you and them hurting you. And so they're not going to be able to give you some good detached advice. You need someone like me, a coach, a counselor, a mentor, someone who can step back and help ask you the questions to help you make the decisions that you need to make in a way. Because here's the thing, nobody knows your situation like you. Back when I was married to both of my two, some people would just flat out say, you need to leave them. Some people didn't flat out say it, but I could just tell by their attitude and the things they said that they really wanted to say it and they really thought it. And you cannot leave until you're ready. And no matter, even though a lot of times I knew they were right, I still could not do it until I felt like I had given it everything that I could give it. On that note, if you decide that the person that you're with, you're going to give them another chance. I don't think I put this in the notes here. Let me make sure. Let me add that in a minute. So first of all, pray. Ask God to show you the truth if you do pray, and use your faith in whatever way you do that. But ask Him to show you the truth and to help you be willing to see the truth. God was showing you the truth for a long time and I wouldn't see it. But ask Him to show it to you and for you to be willing to see it and be willing to take whatever action that means you should take. And then trust your gut. Okay, so let me back up and tell a little bit about, let's say you decide to give the person another chance. And I'm not saying here that you should leave your husband or whatever. The only time that I would ever tell you that is if you're having physical abuse. Physical abuse is a stopper. You need to get out of the situation, get your children and you to safety. Now, once that's done, there are some places where it's appropriate if that other person is willing to do anger management or things like that, to help them get over their anger. But at least at first, you've got to get safe. So in that one, I will say yes, you need to move on. Any other thing, I'm not going to tell you that you should leave someone because, like I said before, nobody knows your situation like you, and nobody, you can't leave until you're ready, if and when you're ready. But if you decide to give them another chance, watch carefully. This is where you really don't ignore the red flags. And this is where you watch to see how they react. They have to be truly repentant. They have to be truly trying to make a change. And they have to understand that they hurt you deeply, that they have betrayed your trust, and they have to earn that trust back, and that it takes a while to earn it. So if they have not truly changed and repented, they are going to want you to believe in them and trust them again really quickly. I mean, they may give it a week or two and want you and think you should trust them again. Even a couple of months might be too quickly, depending on what has happened, especially if it's been going on. If it's a one-time thing, the first time, then it may not take as long to earn the trust back if they're truly changing. But if it's happened several times, you don't know, and you cannot just decide to believe that they've changed. You can, but you're probably going to regret that. So just watch, step back, step out of it if you can, and watch how they react. If they, it's like I know someone whose husband had an affair, got caught, it all blew up, but he really wanted to, he said would leave the person and they would work on the marriage. And he let her have access to his emails, to his texts. He was fine with sleeping on the couch. It was months before she was willing to let him come to bed with her. And he let her have access to all his movements. I think he even checked in with her for a while because he truly repented. He truly believed that he had to earn her trust back, and he was willing to do whatever it took. If the person that you're with is not willing to let you have access to these, or says he will, but then when it happens, he goes and loses his phone or this or that, then they are possibly not, they're not truly changing. And so you may have to start moving on into thinking maybe it's time to end the relationship. Again, talk to people, study, learn about all these topics, make your lists, pray, trust your gut. And as I said before, if you want someone to help you, someone who can just help you figure out for yourself, not try to give you advice and tell you what to do, but I would love to talk with you. There are links in the show notes. You can schedule a free session. I would love to visit with you and talk with you and help you see if we would be a good fit for a coaching relationship. So I hope this was helpful to you, and I hope you have a great week. If you have any questions at all, DM me, message me. I would love to visit with you. All right, take care. Bye-bye.